Is Jim Harbaugh really coming to the Chargers? You tell me.
I ran into Jim at an event about a year ago, and he was raving about Justin Herbert.
Jim Harbaugh has been having some heavy discussions with the LA Chargers. I did confirm last night that the Chargers are very interested in Jim Harbaugh.
The Chargers have significant interest in Jim Harbaugh.
The only 100% sure bet hiring a coach in the NFL, hire a Harbaugh.
That is the one name. I'm telling you, Loki, it's 20-1. Harbaugh compared to anybody else.
Jim, you've got a history with the Chargers.
He's not only 4 for 4. University of San Diego, Stanford, Niners, Michigan. Almost all of them, he took over a complete tire fire and turned it around quickly. Jim Harbaugh would be my choice.
And he punished you. I mean, he punished teams. He had punished them into submission. And that was when Pete Carroll said, what's your deal? And Harbaugh looked right at him and said, what's your deal? That's the tone.
You got the quarterback. Go get the coach. You'll be a playoff team next 7-8 years.
If you're Andy Reid, you want Jim Harbaugh in your division.
You don't want Harbaugh here.
No. You don't want Jim Harbaugh in your division. Like, that's the way I look at it.
So he has not signed a contract with Michigan.
I don't think so.
He's going to have more control, and the Spanoses are willing to relinquish some of that. It got leaked, though.
Well, to me, he's coming back to the NFL.
Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the director. Harbaugh fans. I mean, Chargers fans. Okay, it's all anybody can talk about, all right? I'm sorry. Jim Harbaugh videos oversaturating the channel. Boo-hoo. It's one of the most exciting developments to maybe ever happen with this franchise. We're going to be riding the hype the entire way there, man. I know some people are tired of hearing about it. Some people think I'll believe it when I see it, or if you're Patrick Mahomes, I'll see it when I believe it. At the end of the day, man, I think that this is something worth getting excited over because, honestly, the repercussions that could happen with this move are beyond measure when it comes to the Chargers organization, its fans, and a complete turnaround of what has been pretty despair, experience being a Chargers fan for a very long time. This is very significant. And I kind of wanted to go over with you guys some of the recent juicy details as to why I think Jim Harbaugh could very much so be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. We've been doing a very good job at keeping track of pretty much everything on X. So we're going to be going through all of that, or Twitter. We're going to be going through all of that here today. Because at the end of the day, we could be in a bidding war for this man. Yes, that includes against teams like the Raiders. So before we do get started, guys, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. I'm getting a little anxious. Every week that goes on by, we got one less week of NFL football to throw down on. You newcomers coming into the fold, get your feet wet, get excited for the playoffs. It should be a very good time. Thank you guys so much for all the support on that front. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time. You guys take the like, sub, and bell notification. Helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, second opener. Action. Jim Harbaugh, the Los Angeles Chargers, and the heating up of the rumors that we've been hearing so far. You know what? I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. Let's open up the show with this, okay? If the Chargers do, in fact, some of you guys are going to really hate this. If the Chargers do, in fact, sign Jim Harbaugh here in the next couple of weeks, right? I think the Chargers should make this the primary jersey for the 2024 season. But director, we've never won a game in these jerseys. I don't care. Okay, this is the Jim Harbaugh led Chargers, and obviously the reason for that is that we go from Jim Harbaugh with Michigan right into the same team colors with the Chargers, and it just brings back that retro vibe with LaDainian Tomlinson, et cetera, right? So let's honor Jim Harbaugh, his time with the Michigan Wolverines, as well as like usher in this new, bad A looking Chargers. Maybe even give ourselves that dark helmet as well would be pretty sick. So Let's jump right into this video, guys. This is going to be one a little bit unorthodox for the channel, but it's also one that I think is very important when it comes to following every single detail leading up to the hiring of Jim Harbaugh. As of today, what is it, December 4th, because we do still have some time. Just to be clear, I do not think that Jim Harbaugh is going to give us any indication of whether or not he's coming to the Chargers or not until after January 8th. And of course, that being the national championship in which his Michigan Wolverines are going to be participating in, hopefully getting the dub there. We're going to explain as to that why here in just a second. But yes, lots going on in terms of, is Jim coming to the Chargers? Is he not coming to the Chargers? I'll tell you right now, guys, I think there's a very high chance of that, and let me go ahead and prove that to you. So back on December 16th, I threw together this, I'm not going to say jersey swap, coach swap, I guess, of Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. Got a lot of people super excited about that idea. And then slowly but surely and persistently, we've been seeing a lot of details to follow that support the idea of getting this man to the Chargers. If some of you guys are like, well, what's the big deal about Jim Harbaugh? Why do we want him to be very, very short and clear about this? And if you guys want more details about this, go watch my Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers video. Essentially, Jim Harbaugh is a unicorn when it comes to the history of the NFL. He's one of the winningest coaches ever in NFL and in college. Some people don't like the college NFL, transition coaches. He's been amazing with the Niners. Everywhere he's went, he's taken a crap team and turned them into a contender. And with the most recent case here at the Michigan Wolverines, first time ever the national championship, he could bring them to a natty this upcoming week. So very exciting to see and think about what he could do with the Chargers, and more specifically Justin Herbert, in my opinion, the best quarterback that he's ever had to work with. All right, so let's go ahead and start scrolling up here, and I'm going to explain some of these as we go along because it's going to be very important. Now, the first one here, you might think to yourself, well, director, this doesn't have anything to do with Jim Harbaugh. Yes, it does. This was back on December 17th, so obviously things have changed, but I do expect the Chargers to end up somewhere near or around pick number 5. A lot actually depends on what happens with the Kansas City Chiefs this upcoming Sunday. Either way, this would be another enticing detail just added to the Chargers coaching job. Of course, the Chargers parting with Brandon Staley. We're looking to grab up Jim Harbaugh. If Jim Harbaugh comes in here and gets a top 5 quarterback in Justin Herbert, and then turns around in April and gets a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, yahoo! That's a very, very rare combination that you sorely find with open head coaching positions in the NFL. That in and itself is a huge deal. And it's not just pick 5. Like, obviously, you're going to get a dog there, whether it be Malik Neighbors, Bowers. If we're super lucky, we get somebody like Marvin Harrison. It's the fact that you're going to have this draft position throughout the entirety of the draft. Like, every single draft, or I should say every single round, you're going to have a nice opportunity to pick up a difference maker there. So be excited about the draft position. All right, let's keep moving on up. So back in the 18th of December, we saw some of our first betting odds for who was going to be the next coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. And at this point, if you guys remember, we were talking a lot about Bill Belichick because there was a lot of rumors swirling around him coming to Los Angeles to coach Justin Herbert. And honestly, I'm about it. If the Jim Harbaugh thing doesn't work out, I think Belichick wouldn't be a bad idea. But at this point, I think a lot of us, every egg is in that basket, right? We want that to happen more than anything, and I think the Chargers are very close to making that happen. But you guys even noticed back then, plus 300 on Jim Harbaugh, plus 250 for Bill Belichick. It was very, very close. Very, very close. Not too long after of which, I think it came out that Jim Harbaugh was up and down in terms of communication with the Chargers, and you'll see those betting odds change as we go along. So let's keep going up here. Show you guys the next couple of things. This came out, let's see, December 18th in an article. I don't remember who it was from. I think this was actually Chargers.com, okay, in support of bringing in a Jim Harbaugh. Now, this is very significant if you're a Chargers fan of the last couple of decades, maybe even ever. The Spanos family have been labeled as penny pinchers, as cheap, right? Not a lot of money put into their organization at any given moment. It just feels like there's a lot of cutting corners with this organization. Now, this was significant because honestly, the setup to it was rather perfect. The Chargers go out there and lose a historic game to the Las Vegas Raiders, 63-21, right in front of the owners' faces. And I'm telling you guys right now, I saw the live broadcast. If you guys didn't catch a couple of clips of the Spanoses up in their little box, right, just looking mad as hell. I think you need to go check that out because it does back up what I'm seeing in this article right here. The Spanoses got humiliated and they came out in response to this a couple of days later. Spanos also noted that he expects no financial limitations when it comes to hiring a new head coach and general manager. Going into the search, everything is a possibility. There have been no discussions internally about being a max dollar amount, Spanos said. We're always going to do what's best in the interest of the team. As the general manager and head coach search shape out going forward, the Chargers know they are certainly a draw for candidates. Basically, what this is saying is that the Spanoses, who have a reputation for not spending a lot of money, it looks like they're finally going to be opening up the checkbook. That is a huge detail when it comes to acquiring a Jim Harbaugh. Huge detail. You're not going to get Jim Harbaugh, who already has an offer, mind you, of a 10-year, $125 million contract with Michigan on the table. He could sign that today. No Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers. However, he hasn't signed that yet. He's looking for maybe a team to match that, to surpass that, and I think the Chargers would be very, very wise to give Harbaugh a contract in and around the realm of a Sean Payton. I'm talking $15, $16, $17 million. Heck, give him $20 million a season. That is how big of an impact this man is and how much of a big net worth he is for your team. This team would skyrocket in popularity and success literally overnight with a hiring that big. So the money would be very, very well spent if thrown in the direction of Jim Harbaugh. And it looks like the Spanoses are ready to talk with their wallets. All right. Some people, yeah, we do have some opinions on it, and it's okay to have this opinion. I get it. A lot of us have been hurt for a long time, but think about it this way, man. And this is a philosophy I have in life, okay? I think the capacity or the ability to become invested and excited in something takes courage. It really, really does, because you're putting yourself out there, man. And I think something I got from my mother, all right, is the ability to not be afraid of disappointment. I'm willing to risk my disappointment in that moment if we don't get Jim Harbaugh in order to ride the days and weeks before it and enjoy that time as a Chargers fan. I'm willing to make that risk for myself. And if I'm disappointed, I'm okay with hurting. I'm okay with feeling that disappointment. I'm not afraid of that. And that's hopefully something I think a lot of sports fans need to take into their hearts at some point. I think it makes sports a lot more enjoyable for a lot longer. Instead of just those tiny moments when something huge happens, which doesn't happen very often, you get to ride that hype and anticipation for a lot longer. All right? Next up, I posted here, I don't know what's going to happen, but for now, that's exactly kind of what I was talking about. I live in a world where Harbaugh could legit be the next coach of the LA Chargers. I'm going to enjoy the ride because this is the happiest I've been as a Bolts fan in a long time, and this is after the Brandon Staley era, so of course a lot of people looking for hope. I'm going to single out this image for one big reason. Of course, wearing the iconic number 55 Junior Seau, huge player for the Chargers in their history, and of course being paid homage with Coach Harbaugh here. But also keep in mind that Jim Harbaugh was a San Diego Charger at one point. Okay, I don't remember when, back in 90s or something, 80s. It was Jim Harbaugh, I think even drafted by the Chargers. He played quarterback for this team a long time ago. And there's an interview with Matt Money Smith and Lorenzo Neal floating around where they talked about the relationship that was created between Harbaugh and the Spanoses back when he was a member of the team. And funny enough, the Spanoses, who don't get along with a lot of people in terms of giving up control and stuff like that, them and Harbaugh seem to have a pretty good relationship. Harbaugh and the San Diego Chargers seem to have a pretty good relationship. For some of you guys say, well, that's ancient history. There's no more San Diego Chargers. The fact that this is a family-owned team and a lot of those same people are still in the building actually does mean that this kind of is the same San Diego Chargers. And if he had good relationship with the Spanoses back then, I would think mainly Dean, who's still around, I think that could help kindle a relationship with the Chargers going forward here. Okay, if anything, they know this man on a personal level, and if they're pursuing him this aggressively right now, then they know what it's going to take to give him control in some terms of the team and what his success rate could look like with the Chargers. All right. Next up, some people getting hyped after watching. If you guys haven't seen this already, definitely go check it out. My Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers could actually happen. A lot of good nuggets in there. If you guys want to know why Jim Harbaugh would be the best choice for the Chargers by far, a revolutionary choice out here. All right. Next up, let's take a look at, there's a lot of good stuff in here, guys. Here we go. ML report. Now, of course, this came out before we had a whole bunch of confirmations. I did a little bit of digging and found a couple of things beforehand that were posted a couple of months ago that I felt were relevant. Some people felt they weren't relevant, but hear this out. Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh has had heavy discussions with the Los Angeles Chargers regarding their opening head coach position. And this is back in December 19th. Okay, now again, take this with a grain of salt. I don't know how reputable the ML football account is or anything like that. They seem okay to me. But I think that this is something that came out from September 23. Okay, so from September 2023. This came out a while ago. And some people use that as a means to discredit the rumor, which it could, of course, it's just a rumor. It could not be true. But at the same time, I think everything starts somewhere. I think the spark of this rumor started somewhere. And I do think at this point, with the Chargers and Brandon Staley and the stinker of the playoff game that we had versus the Jags and the horrible, horrible season that we were having with the 2023 season and Brandon Staley. And then on top of that, around this time, we're starting to see a lot of drama revolving around Coach Harbaugh and the NCAA and a potential suspension there, which is a bunch of BS, but it could force him out of college football. All that kind of revolves around that time, which maybe said, hey, maybe Harbaugh was thinking about going to the NFL even at that time, and kind of starting to set up the pieces there, because a strategist isn't going to go into something blind. He's going to set himself up. So maybe, just maybe, he was having discussions as far back as September 23rd. And it was in this interview that we first heard stuff like this. Let me actually go ahead and turn this up a little bit. We're going to listen to a couple of different things.
Moving to LA next year by Jim Harbaugh. Now, I was also told in this conversation the reason why that was happening is because Jim Harbaugh has been having some heavy discussions with the LA Chargers.
We'll only listen to a couple little excerpts here and there, but I think that's very important. I think the timing of that kind of makes sense to me. And of course, this is when the hype started to really heat up on December 18th. All right. And of course, here's the quote from that discussion there. Very, very interesting that some of that started to move in and around that time. And of course, we're just trying to add to the evidence suggesting that this could happen in the next week. All right. We got a little bit hyped about Brock Bowers here. That could definitely be the move for the Chargers in the draft, to give Brock Bowers and Justin Herbert a connection with Jim Harbaugh. I think it's GG's in the friggin' chat, y'all. We'll take a look here at the Believe podcast. Now, this is too long for us to go through and grab some of the nuggets, but that's one of the reasons why I played that hype teaser at the beginning of this video, because we did have some really good nuggets from this podcast in that opener. And it basically says Jim Harbaugh is the number one of one choice for all Chargers fans to come into Los Angeles and coach this team. The ownership is aware of that. The ownership are going to be pursuing him very aggressively. They talked about the kind of coach he is, how aggressive he is, the big turnarounds that he's had at all the programs that he's went to, Stanford and San Diego and Michigan, of course, San Francisco. A lot of good stuff in here. This came out December 19th, and this is, I think, where I first started to see some of the big personalities talking about this idea. And of course, Matt Money Smith, a big personality to us, and Lorenzo, a big personality to us. But these are, I would say, voices of authority when it comes to this kind of stuff. And they started talking about it. So Matt gushing over Harbaugh's masterclass coaching at Stanford, which was huge in his dominance over Pete Carroll's USC Trojans. You got the Harbaugh to LA narrative carries far and wide through the fan base. Everyone knows it. It's starting to heat up. I put the clip out there of the "What's your deal" interaction with Jim Harbaugh. He goes back and says, "What's your deal?" That is the style of coach he is, man. He poured it on. 55-21. A lot of Chargers fans coming back into the fold after this, too. A lot of people getting super excited. Here comes another, and this is going to be a big, big supporter, this next personality. A big supporter of this idea, and a big supporter of information in support of this idea. This is Colin Cowherd, okay? And around December 19th, a lot of stuff was starting to pour on. Colin Cowherd comes out here and says, basically, the Los Angeles Chargers would be very wise to sign Harbaugh, that you're only going to be successful if you get a Harbaugh. That's the only surefire thing. You guys saw that in the trailer. Okay? He's very much so in support of this idea. And this was the beginning of where I think the national media really started to push this narrative into the limelight. And that can be important, y'all. Because all of a sudden, the Chargers, who kind of fly under the radar as a team in terms of news and stuff like this, are now being nationally recognized by almost every radio personality, every NFL talking head, every analyst out there as the team that needs Jim Harbaugh. Yes, there's some rumors here and there around, like the Raiders. I think there's a couple of connections there that they're using. Washington Commanders. There's a couple of candidates out there. But Colin Cowherd and many NFL analysts are going to say that Justin Herbert being the biggest reason to come to Los Angeles is just one of many for Coach Jim Harbaugh. And this is pushing that narrative in front of the noses of the Spanoses too, which I think is very important. Okay? Adam Schefter came out here and kind of confirmed what they're saying. Chargers president John Spanos said the team would have no limitations. That was confirming what we were saying in terms of the money. So don't be too upset when it comes to the Spanoses aren't going to put out any money for the head coach because of their reputation. I think they're ready to open up the wallet there. Here comes Dan, fan of the friend of the show, excuse me, says, sign me up for the weekly Chargers Harbaugh Justin pregame hype routine. That's what I'm telling you, man. And a big reason why I want to single this out, too, is because the effect that he's had on quarterbacks. Back in his days with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick with the San Francisco 49ers, he hyped those quarterbacks up so much, got the peak performance out of both of them, and then does the same thing, I would say, in college as well. J.J. McCarthy, he says, the best quarterback in Michigan history. Bold statement. But still, it shows that he's a very much so a quarterback whisperer, and giving him a talent like Justin Herbert would just take that whole thing to the next level. All right. On December 20th, we got updated betting odds that showed Bill Belichick and Jim Harbaugh. I don't remember why this came out. I think that there was talk about him staying with Michigan at this time, and it kind of lowered the odds there. Bill Belichick shot up for the Chargers, so did Ben Johnson. But I do think that changed not too far after that, so keep that in mind. I think it was because of this article here. And this is surrounding around speculation. This is ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, who does change his tune, mind you, a little bit later. He says people around the NFL are skeptical the Chargers would give Harbaugh the power or meet the financial demands that he would be seeking to leave Michigan. The Chargers are in the market for a new head coach, blah, 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 blah. So basically they're saying they're not going to pony up the money. It's been confirmed over and over and over again since then that, yes, they're going to pony up the money, and they're going to give the control that Jim Harbaugh wants if they can make that relationship happen. Okay, and I think that's supported by another update in terms of odds that we're going to see here a little bit later that shoots Jim Harbaugh all the way back up to the top. All right. We got a little bit more rumors about Bill Belichick coming to the Chargers. That's certainly still in play. And then Bleacher Report comes out on the 20th with a huge scoop. Of course, Bleacher Report, huge friend of the show. I have a show on their platform as well if you guys want to catch it. My post-game reaction shows on Bleacher Report on their app. Our buddy Jordan Schultz comes out here and says that he's got insider sources saying that the Chargers are indeed interested in Jim Harbaugh. And at this point, we didn't know if it was for certain Jim Harbaugh that they were going after. And this was kind of the first indicator that, yes, we are going after Jim Harbaugh. I know it was a very big moment.
At Schultz_report. And what I've been told, from what I can gather, sources tell me that the Chargers have significant interest in Jim Harbaugh. Big time development right there. Because, again, it's breaking the mold of your average Chargers signing in terms of head coach. Okay? So, yes, we do have interest in hiring Jim Harbaugh. I think everybody's going to have interest in signing Jim Harbaugh. But the Chargers pursuing him this aggressively is a very, very good sign in terms of they're willing to change their tendencies. And on top of that, I don't know if you guys seen this, where this is talking about the Raiders maybe going after Jim Harbaugh, which is technically a danger. And if that happens, find me the highest cliff to jump off, man. That would be disgusting. Either way, trying to support this, I posted this saying the Chargers getting historically humiliated by the Raiders in front of the Spanoses, and then the Spanoses hearing that the Raiders are now going after Harbaugh too. Yeah, I don't think they're going to let that happen. I honestly don't. I think, honestly, that was a moment that broke the Spanoses, and I do think that they're going to do especially whatever it takes to make sure the Raiders don't end up with Jim Harbaugh. Now, this is a big question I've been getting asked a lot, too, in regards of the national championship coming up here really soon. Will Jim Harbaugh pursue an NFL job if he does or does not win the national championship on January 8th?
I would think Jim Harbaugh is entertaining offers from the NFL.
So he has not signed a contract with Michigan, has not signed a contract extension with Michigan by January 15th?
I don't think so. I really don't.
What if he does win it all?
Then I think he's definitely going to.
Then he's going to the NFL if he wins it all, is what you're saying?
Yes. Because if he does, mission accomplished. I have never won a Super Bowl. My brothers won a Super Bowl. I've never won. I came close. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think if he wins a national title, he's staying there forever?
Great clip right there. So for those of you guys wondering, who am I rooting for in the national championship, Washington, Michigan, I would be rooting for Michigan. I think, honestly, yes. I think mission accomplished if he ends up winning the national title.
He's going to fixate his eyes on a Super Bowl in which he lost to his brother, John Harbaugh, in the Niners Baltimore Ravens Super Bowl back in the day. I think he's going to want another shot at it, and I think the Chargers give him the best shot. I wish we had time to watch this. One of the best things ever produced by the Chargers media team ever. Here comes Jordan Schultz again. Spoke today about the possibility of Jim Harbaugh leaving for the NFL. This was basically confirming some of the complications that Jim is having in terms of a potential suspension from Michigan. The NCAA, I should say. They pushed a bunch of BS narratives forward from the COVID season. Let's just say that no way, shape, or form is Jim's character in question for me. It seems like the NCAA is kind of out to get Jim Harbaugh for some reason. And they're just saying that that could be grounds to push Jim Harbaugh away from the contract Michigan has already offered him because he doesn't want to deal with the suspensions and the drama that revolves around the college scene. All right. Next up, let's see. Where are we here? Maybe I'm in my replies. Maybe that's why we're seeing all this additional stuff. We were looking a little bit about Ben Johnson, who's an excellent candidate as well, but he wanted in around the same money as it would cost to get Jim Harbaugh. Later, we heard again from Colin Cowherd that, again, kind of further pushing the narrative of the NCAA penalties and stuff like that and how that's going to be pushing him out of college football. That's a pretty big thing right there. And he also said that he can't confirm from what Jordan Schultz was saying that the Chargers are indeed, their number one guy is Jim Harbaugh. His sources did confirm that. Later on, we did get an update in terms of the betting odds. Jim Harbaugh shot up to the top at plus 200. Let's start getting into some of the more recent stuff up here, man. Because there's some doozies coming up here, man. Yes, I do play a lot of Ultimate Team. The evidence stacking up very high. What do we have here from the 23rd? People close to Harbaugh tell me the statement that Spanos is legitimate and they believe the franchise will be willing to meet the salary demands of the Wolverines head coach, which are expected to exceed $15 million annually. Yep, absolutely. The fact that the team fired Telesco also, as well as Staley, indicates they'd be willing to let someone such as Harbaugh choose a general manager or at least have a say in who gets hired for the position. People now believe Chargers are the front runners for Harbaugh. Where did this come out from? I think this may have been ESPN or something like that. Either way, very, very promising news in terms of, yes, the Chargers are going to pay him. The Chargers, and a lot of the times this is going to be a make or break decision for some coach hires. They want to find a GM that they mesh with well, right? The Chargers, it looks like they may be giving the opportunity to a guy like Jim Harbaugh to be part of that selection process. And I think that's going to be something very exciting to monitor right there. We're back in the playoff, or not the playoff, the top 5 pick thing here. We went out here. Merry Christmas to everybody. I made this AI-generated image right here. Maybe a little creepier than I intended, like I said there, but definitely pretty exciting. This next clip, again from Colin Cowherd, says, Colin knows something. He's subtly giving out clues. Again, I think that's one of the same clips there. He's talking about the sources in the background and conversations happening in the background. And the Chargers being wise to go after Jim Harbaugh. So again, Colin is he knows something. He definitely knows something. Later on the 27th, Jim Harbaugh would be visiting Disneyland, getting ready for the Rose Bowl, obviously. And a couple of different things happened here. One, the reporters come in here and they ask him straight up, you have connections to the Chargers. Are you going back to the NFL? And he gives very stone-faced answers like, yeah, we're focused on here and now. But it's very obvious in his face that there's something going on. That's all I'm going to say, okay? We're not going to speculate too much on that. Then Dan comes in here. Did I post the clip here? Yes, I did. Dan comes in here. I think he actually texted me this. I saw it the next day. He says, I was lucky enough to run into Jim Harbaugh at Disneyland Wednesday. I told him to please come to the Chargers as he walked by. His face lit up as I said it, and he turned and smiled and gave me the thumbs up as he kept walking by. That was crazy. And a lot of people called bullcrap on that. Until later on, this man... Super Dan 56 follows up with video evidence, man. I'd like to submit to the court new evidence of this interaction.
Please come to the Chargers.
Absolutely insane, dude. I don't know. Again, speculation right there. But really fun to see Jim Harbaugh. He knows. Everyone's pelting him with questions about it. He knows. Everybody knows the Chargers want him. But maybe he knows something. That's what another thing I'm going to mention here, too. I think Jim knows what he's going to do. He's not going to say anything until after January 8th. All right? This next huge development is maybe the biggest one that we've seen so far. Okay? This is maybe the biggest piece of evidence of his coming to the NFL and likely the Chargers. Adam Schefter posted Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh has hired football agent Don Yee to represent him. Sources tell me that amongst others, you see represented Tom Brady and Sean Payton. Basically, he hired an NFL agent to come in and negotiate his transition to the NFL. Now, some people will say maybe he's just doing his due diligence. He's definitely not working, to build that Michigan contract with Don Yee. He's working for the NFL, towards the NFL with that hire. It's a very, very significant move. Now, of course, Don Yee has connections to the Chargers. He helped found a charity organization with the Chargers way back when, I think in 2021. I think he may have connections with the Raiders as well, specifically Tom Brady and the Raiders. But very huge development because a lot of people, this put out of the minds of a lot of people like, he's definitely going back to Michigan, and said, maybe he's not. Because all of a sudden, he's got an NFL agent. Like, that's pretty significant. So this pushed forward, to me, the odds of his move to the NFL super high. And the fact that the Chargers are on top of that list for a lot of people, not just Chargers fans, but NFL analysts everywhere, also continues to push that narrative. All right? This excerpt from Colin Cowherd again.
Yee, there's a story that was leaked to Adam Schefter that Jim Harbaugh has signed with Don Yee. So that's not really a big story. Everybody knows Don Yee is close to the Chargers and Harbaugh. That's not the story. But it got leaked, and Harbaugh wanted it leaked. So the question becomes, I have been told by two sources, one in the building, one out, Chargers absolutely do not like the image in Los Angeles that they're cheap. So they're saying, hey, we're building a new facility. Now to that, I would say.
Okay, he goes on to say that Chargers are going to speak with their wallet again, but more so, the fact that it got leaked also, it shows that there's intent to that, right? That you can't directly say anything, but Jim and I think the agent, they're leaking stuff, right? And I think it's on purpose. It's a strategy, right? And it could be in terms of pre-negotiation with the Chargers or whoever he's trying to go at with the NFL, and also maybe Michigan too. There's a possibility that Michigan ups the ante, gives him more money to stay, whatever. But that is pretty significant. All of it is very significant. And the fact that it got leaked is especially significant. Then we put out the hype video that you guys saw at the top of the video. Michigan goes out there and wins the Rose Bowl. They're going to be in contention for the national championship in just a few short days here. That's very exciting. Finish what you started out there. We saw this. This was pretty huge too. Right after the Rose Bowl concluded, like literally within like 20 minutes, this very reliable source, if you guys don't believe me, take a look here. 246,000 followers. Christina Anderson. I'm told the expectation at this time for the Chargers is that they'll run their head coach and general manager searches simultaneously per source. Okay? Some early names surfacing around head coach vacancy at this preliminary stage include Dan Quinn, yuck, Eric Bieniemy, okay, Jim Harbaugh, please, and possibly Bill Belichick. All right. Who all have extensive postseason and or Super Bowl experience. Now, the reason that this is so big is because, of course, the narrative continues, the story continues after the Rose Bowl win. Jim is still not going to say anything. Lips are sealed. But in order to get any head coach, you have to go through a process, right? And you can't just go and interview one guy, bing, bang, boom, be done. I think there's a rule stating that you have to interview a whole bunch of people. And I think the Chargers are kind of doing their due diligence here. And the fact that this came out right after the Rose Bowl says, hey, the Chargers kind of putting it out there, we're very much so serious about that. Now, those are the biggest things that we've heard so far. Some other cool speculation things. Everyone in the NFL is going to go after the defensive coaches for Michigan and Baltimore. That is super significant because of how great Michigan's defense has been. Jim Harbaugh brought in hand-selected guys from his brother's system with the Baltimore Ravens, used an NFL system in Michigan, had a lot of success there. We could see a guy like Jesse Minter, their defensive coordinator, come with Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers, which would be fantastic. Can you guys imagine a Baltimore-style defense in L.A.? The hype just keeps growing. Speaking of keep growing here, Harbaugh, another source right here. Jim Harbaugh has raved about how much he loves Justin Herbert. We heard a lot about this beforehand when Justin Herbert was being raved. I think sometime back in like last season, like last year, there was rumor that he was just going off. Jim Harbaugh was going off about how much he loved Justin Herbert. And now we're hearing even more about it. Everybody's saying they're excited to see what happens with the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh.
Actions against the program based on the stuff that's happened this year. So, and the other factor is that Los Angeles Chargers job is a very desirable job for a lot of people because of the quarterback. You don't.
And that's going to be huge, man. The pairing of Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh cannot be understated. And then finally, some of the last things that we've heard to kind of wrap up this. I know it's been a long, weird video, but this is important, guys. I think this could be one of the most significant moves in our franchise's history, and we're going to cover every single second of it if we can. Can't say this is an official source, but Dave Pallett of the Bolt City podcast, he stated that Chargers and Jim Harbaugh are rumored to have met multiple times, and a deal is already being worked on. Take that for what you will. I think that they could be credible, and I would say take it with a grain of salt, because I absolutely believe this has happened. Of course it's happened in my mind, right? He's been in LA several times. He spent, a bunch of time here just recently. I do think they've been talking, even prior to this. Of course, we heard back in September that could have already been happening. Honestly, dudes, grain of salt absolutely with everything that you hear, but this one just, I don't know. I got a feeling about this one. I do think that this could be legitimate because honestly, it just makes so much sense. So much sense. Finally, some things to support here. This is just a funny comment. You guys can pause and read it if you want. Basically saying that Jim would never go to a franchise like the Chargers. What a joke. And then his history indicates otherwise. Stanford, San Francisco, Michigan. Maybe not the most coveted jobs in the world, and he turned around every single one of those programs. And finally, I think we had one more here that I wanted to show. Yes, we had some more statements coming in from Sports Illustrated. Everybody in support of the idea. We'll close this show out with this little segment here from Stephen A. Smith.
We all back to Harbaugh. If he wins the national championship, go ahead and take the Chargers job in the National Football League. We all know he loves Justin Herbert. We all know that there's a lot of distractions in the city of Los Angeles. There are better things to do than watch a team that ain't winning. There's a lot of things to do in the Los Angeles area. You don't need to go watch the Chargers. They need to be incentivizing us to do so, and hiring Harbaugh will pull that off. Because I believe if they hired him, they'll instantly be better. They'll instantly make the playoffs. And I think with Harbaugh as the head coach, with Justin Herbert as his quarterback, I think they'd have a chance to win the Super Bowl in about 2 years, if not sooner. That's just me. Back to Harbaugh.
In about 2 years, if not sooner. This is why this is such a big deal, everybody. This is why this is such a big deal. Go back and watch my Harbaugh video if you don't know how significant of a coach that we are playing with right now in terms of the possibilities of turning around this franchise. His success rate is unreal. It shouldn't be. It's a paradox. I have absolutely no idea how he continues to do what he does. And if there was ever an organization that needed this, it's the Chargers. If there was ever a fan base that needed this, it's the Chargers. We've been what we are for too long, and this move will change everything. And the evidence is stacking. It's stacking very, very high. And this move could be just around the corner. I would imagine if you guys are looking for a date, National Championship, January 8th, I would say anywhere between the 8th and the 15th is where I expect to hear something about Jim Harbaugh. Part of me wants to protect myself and say, man, he couldn't, there's a possibility he doesn't get hired. That would really suck. I'd be devastated. But the other part of me just feels, I don't know. I have a feeling. I think a lot of us have a feeling. I think Chargers fans have a feeling. I think the ownership, everybody, the players, the teams, even Jim Harbaugh maybe. Maybe everybody has a feeling that this could happen. Very likely, as a matter of fact. And it's one of the biggest things that Chargers fans in the history of this team can support and root for at this time. This franchise may turn a corner this year, dudes. A significant corner. Everybody who's been Chargers fans since the 70s, 80s, whatever, 10 years like me or 15, whatever, since LT, this is what you've been waiting for. We've seen the same thing over and over and over again since forever. Cheap ownership, bad ownership, cheap coaches, rinse and repeat first-time coordinators, etc., 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 etc. This could be it, man. Jim Harbaugh could break that mold, and we could finally be set loose. Let's make it happen, man. Let's make it happen. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you guys have any more news on Jim Harbaugh, I guess I'll go check this really quick. Make sure we didn't see or miss anything here. No, I think we're good. I think we're pretty much up to date at this point. Jim Harbaugh, where are you going? What are you going to become in terms of a coach? Is he going to be back with Michigan? Is he going to be with the Chargers? Is he going to be with another team in the NFL? We'll have to wait and see. But exciting times to be a Chargers fan. Exciting times. Live through the hype, man. Ride it. Have fun with it. We don't know what's going to happen. So till then, live in this awesome world with me where Jim Harbaugh could be the next, or I should say the biggest thing to ever happen to this franchise. And the situation is as real as any situation that could actually be a thing here in the next couple of days. That is an actual possibility. It's not smoke. It's not a pipe dream. It's real. Let's support it. Let's put that positive energy into the universe and make it happen. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. As always, bolt up, stay frosty. For the love of God, let's get Jim Harbaugh to Los Angeles, baby. Bolt up, dude. Bolt up.